Good morning.
Good morning.
So how's everybody? Great. Yes. Many years ago, there was a 24-year-old, very young married woman who went to a church in St. Louis, and who I thought were some older women came up to me and said, "Honey, we got an opportunity for you." Anybody been recruited that way? And I said, "Ma'am," and she said, "We got an opportunity to get a pilot Girl Scout troop here." And I said, "That's nice, but I don't have any girls." And then I said, "I don't even have any children." And I know how to do this because I'm one of them. When older women surround a younger woman, it was 3 of them. And I thought they were like super old, but now they were just the age I am now, you know? And so they kind of surrounded me and they had those smiles, you know those smiles? And they said, "Honey, you look like you do really well with this." And I said, "Excuse me, I don't have any girls. I don't have any children." And they said, "That's okay." And the next thing you know, we were a pilot site for what became Daisy's. And it was probably one of the earliest leadership opportunities I had. And this was before you had to put kids in seat belts and all of that. Anybody in here old enough to remember an AMC Gremlin, American Motors Gremlin? For those of you who are young, Google it. And it was a boxy car. They were the ugliest cars in the world. And I would stick those little stick-legged girls in the back of that Gremlin with that seat down, and we rode all over St. Louis. And we went to museums, and we talked about things, and we went to the zoo, and we went to plays, and we did amazing things together. And just as they grew, I grew. And then when they flew up, I flew up. And then I had a baby. And it was a boy. And they said, "Miss Vicki, he can't be a Girl Scout." And one of them said to me, "But he's kind of cute." And one of them even said, "You didn't need no baby, you got us." So it was an interesting experience for me, but I had been a Girl Scout at Leaf School a million years ago in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm not crafty. I don't do any craftings. I'm left-handed, and so those of you who are left-handed, you know we don't do much crafty stuff because nobody knew how to teach us how to do things. And one thing that we made was earrings using the the little styrofoam that used to come in the Alka-Seltzer. Anybody remember that? Yeah, okay, it was like low crafts, okay? It was not as sophisticated as it is now. And so we colored some rice, and I remember, it's funny, I can't find my keys, but I remember this rice was green and white. We colored some rice, we stuck it on the little styrofoam circles, and we put earring backs on it. Yes, and that was our Mother's Day gift. Girl Scout, green and white rice. And I sat in church as my mother wore them, and I watched the rice drop off onto her clothes. But she was so proud, and she'd sit there and she'd flick the rice, and she'd flick the rice, and I heard her tell someone, "Vicki made these for me." And by that time, it was like one green thing of rice on each one. And the woman was walking around with styrofoam balls on her ear with one thing of rice. But it was green and white, and that was the extent of my crafting, if you will, in Girl Scouts. So I feel like I'm one of you. I am so proud to be here. I love working with volunteers. I am a volunteer on the National Diaper Bank Board and the Youth Volunteer Corps Board. Sound familiar? Same kind of stuff. So let's talk about change. Now, I told you about when I was a Girl Scout. Y'all laugh like, what kind of craft was that? Who was her leader? People are like, "Oh, that wouldn't fly right now." Of course not. First of all, I don't even know if they sell Alka-Seltzer anymore. So that would be a hard thing to do. So the idea is that everything has changed. The world has changed. And this idea of leadership without limits, and we can't have limits in the way we approach change. And so I love this quote. It says, "You can't do today's job with yesterday's methods and be in business tomorrow." You know what business? You know what business you in. You in the developing girls business. You in the creating the next generation of leaders business. And those girls that are on the other side of that wall are nothing like I was when I was a girl. They're in a whole different world. And let me say something, nonprofits are different. Girl Scouts doesn't operate like it did when I was a girl, and it doesn't operate like it did when I was a leader. Somebody said, you know, it's not your mama's Girl Scouts, but let's make mama proud. It's a whole different scenario. So the idea of how do you navigate change? I want to introduce you to 5 questions. And one of them, and this is by Peter Drucker, who was an amazing thought leader. And what Dr. Drucker said is you got to stay with the mission. What journey are you on? What journey are you on? You notice I'm not talking about a mission statement. I'm talking about what journey are you on? You all are on a very special journey. You are on a very special journey. In the journey of helping girls and of working with each other to transform lives. You know this is not about cookies. You know this is not about troop meetings. This is not about crafts. This is not about camp. This is about the next generation of girls. And that's the journey that you're on. And the thing, I'm so glad you're all here together because you're all on this journey together. And you can't go on a trip without knowing where you're going. And you can't go on a trip without tools. And that's why you're here today, is to get some tools. So you got to understand this mission and say what, and stay on the journey. Stay on the road. I used to live in Texas. I stopped driving in Texas. I lived in Uber everywhere. I get lost all the time. Yesterday I said, y'all better come pick me up. I won't never find my way there. You got to stay on the journey. You also, he talks about the customer. You say, we're not Macy's. We don't got no customer. The customer is the person or the people whose lives are most transformed. See, you in transformational work. You in transformational work. Don't stay in the weeds. You in transformational work. And your customer is the girls. But you know who your ultimate customer is? Society. And what you do with, for, around those girls as volunteers changes the whole world. But you got to understand those girls. Years ago, I'm not sure. I think most girls are pretty much all the same. These days, if you've seen one girl, how many girls you seen? One. And isn't it wonderful that they're all different? This whole homogeneousness of girls and women, I'm so glad it's gone. We're not the same. We're different. We come from different places. We have different desires. We have different interests. You see, y'all gonna have to get some bigger vests because they got too many badges. Y'all got to turn them into dusters or something so they can put, wear them all down, like wear them way low, So you can't judge one girl by what another girl, and you definitely can't judge one girl by what you would like as a girl. And I can't judge or think that a girl wants what I wanted. So the idea is what you do as volunteers is you get to know those girls. And you get to know those who are not your children as much as you didn't do any of the others. Because you're coming to understand today's girl. Today's girl is very different. Today's woman is very different. Used to be people would say, tell me what the women think. We don't all think alike. I see that on TV. The women say, they ain't asked me. I'm like, who did they ask? So the idea is really get to know the girls as volunteers, get to know who they are. Also, you all are role models. Oh my God, you are teaching them that it is important to give back. You all got busy lives. Y'all got plenty of stuff to do. Trust me. And what you are showing them is the way to give back, and that's the value proposition. That you respect yourself, that you respect other people, that you give and that you do and that you volunteer. That's Drucker's third question, is about the value proposition. You value the girls and they value you and they value this experience. He also then talks about what results, change lives and change conditions. I probably won't be here, but I know that the world is in good hands because of people like you. Girls are in good hands with people like you. Volunteerism is in good hands with people like you. And then his next question is, what's the plan? The plan is how you navigate the change, because nothing stays the same. Anybody ever tried to fit into some jeans they had on in high school? You know what I'm talking about. This idea of this journey. You are building girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. Courage. You know how much courage it takes to go with the flow when something is changing? We like things the way we talk about the good old days and all that kind of stuff. It takes courage to go with the flow and to adapt to change. It's hard to adapt to change. I now have a smart TV. You know, right? I don't know really how to turn it on. My son and daughter-in-law who live in Austin have a smart TV, and when I go there, I stand in the living room and scream, will someone come in here and turn this television on? Because I don't know how to work 4 remotes. Mom, do you want the sound? Do you want to stream? I just want to watch The Price is Right. Since when do you need 4 remotes to watch The Price is Right? The world has changed. It was 3 stations when I grew up. Price is Right still come on CBS at 10 o'clock. Some things never change, thank goodness. But I got to figure out how to work that TV in my house. I got a little TV in my bedroom. I just pass by the other one and just go in my room, you know. But this idea is we got to stay on the journey. This idea that change is not a threat. It is an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Suppose they only had the same badges they had when I was a kid. Cooking, sewing, reading, boring. Suppose the uniforms were the same. Oh my gosh. These girls look snappy. You look snappy. Everything. And who Dr. Drucker was, some of you may have heard of Frances Hesselbein, who was a former CEO of Girl Scouts of the USA, and she was the beginning of the transformation of Girl Scouts. You got to look at change as an opportunity, not as a threat. Not as a threat. And you're leaders. You say, why are we talking about leaders? Because all of you are leaders. See, a leader has nothing to do with a title. The highest form of leadership is someone who transforms and tries to shape somebody else's life in a positive way. And that's who you are. This ain't about being on an org chart. This is not about how much money you get. You're volunteers. You're priceless. You're priceless. So the idea is all of the changes that are in the world with girls, with Girl Scouts, with TVs, with everything. Go to the movies. I wanted to go see Avengers Endgame. I had to go on my phone, pick a seat, pay for it. I can't see them little seats on my phone. I ended up sitting behind a railing, and everything was a railing going right across my face. My friend said to me, why did you choose these seats? I said, I didn't choose these seats. I couldn't see. I pushed a button, and there we were. What happened to going to the movies, getting a ticket, and then picking out a seat? It don't work like that no more. Do I want to go back to that? Well, I did when I kept cutting off, what's his name, Iron Man face. Yeah. So let's talk about what's changed. Everything. Anybody know who that lady is? Pat Summitt, University of Tennessee women's basketball coach. Pat Summitt was an amazing leader, specifically when it came to women and girls. Pat Summitt put women's basketball on the map in this country. And she did it because she was not afraid to challenge the status quo. She went with, she caused change. She was a change agent. And what she said is the willingness to experiment with change may be the most essential ingredient to success. You wouldn't be here today if you didn't want to have a successful troop, if you didn't want to be a successful volunteer, if you didn't want the girls to be successful. And that's the most important thing, is being willing to change, being willing to try. Unfortunately, Pat Summitt died of early onset dementia a few years ago. And believe it or not, women now, came to her memorial service with handwritten letters that Pat Summitt had written them. You know who most of those girls who had the handwritten letters were? The girls who didn't make the team. She wrote to each one of them and said, I realize that what you thought was your journey in life, being on the University of Tennessee women's basketball team, is not part of your journey right now. There are other roads, there are other things, and I know you will be a success. You just need to change the way you think about your life and what you will do with it. What coach do you know who even takes time to talk to the people who get cut? She was helping those young girls at that time to deal with change. Because when you're 19 years old and all you want to do is be on the University of Tennessee women's basketball team and you don't make it, you think your life is over. When you're 19 years old, you think your life is over every other day when you don't get it. But she was trying to help them. Girls have changed. You know that. Volunteer engagement has changed. The way we educate. Look at you, you got the app. We're paperless here. The way you use videography, all of that. Community issues have changed. The projects that you all do. The technology has changed. The girls can manage the technology. Training has changed. Fund development has changed. How you raise money has changed. How you engage has changed. The way you become a volunteer, the way you want to be engaged as a volunteer, partnership development with the schools and with other community groups and with the parents has changed. And nonprofit management, every nonprofit organization in the world is having to change because it's just a new day and the world has changed. So you could probably add a ton of stuff to that list about stuff that's changed. Now, why do we resist change? Sometimes we don't understand it. We say, well, I don't understand this. I don't know anything about this, so I'm just going to fight it. Sometimes we don't know how to go with the change. Ergo, my TV. I don't know how to turn that television on. Oh, the man came and set it up and turned it on, and he gets you got it. I went, uh-huh. And I tried again, can't get it on, you know. So I don't have the skills to handle that. Sometimes people are just not willing and don't have the motivation to enact the change. It takes energy. It takes energy. Anybody here raft, whitewater raft? Oh, good. You can look at me and tell I don't. I use whitewater rafting as a metaphor. So anybody who does water rafting, what do you do when the water changes? When you're going and then the water shifts? You have to talk back.
Change when you adjust.
Change course?
Yeah, you adjust.
You adjust. Ride it out. Go with it. Hang on for dear life. That's it. Hang on for dear life. And that's part of what you do in the change site is you hang on for dear life. You say, I don't understand this. Why they changing all this stuff? You don't quit. You hang on for dear life because you know that the stakes are very high and the stakes are for those girls. And so the idea is you don't want to be on the resistance pyramid. Get off the resistance pyramid. You know, the whole idea is we've always done. I went to a conference once and they gave us a button that said we've always done it this way, and they put a big X over. Because we're not going to do anything the way we've always done it. And guess what? It's going to continue to evolve. Change isn't painful. It's the resistance that's painful. And then the idea is focus your energy on the new, building the new, not fighting the old. Does that make sense to you? We put a lot of energy into trying to get things back the way they were versus saying, you know what, we're going to build the new. Well, talking about how the world changed, do you know we got 5 generations of people moving around now? 5 generations of people living longer than ever, being active longer than ever. We got World War II people. We got boomers. Hey, where the boomers? Boomers, let me hear you. Boomers. Hello, boomers. Thank you. Generation X, can we hear the Xers? Okay. Generation Y. Okay. And do we have any Zs? Anybody born 1996? What is Zs? All right, stand up and represent the Zs. There she is. Now, while this is exciting, and personally, I'm very glad that people are living longer. That really helps me. But the idea is time and position does not denote power and authority. She could end up being my upline. I got as much to learn from her as she has to learn from me. And I have to approach the change in a way that just because I've been on this planet longer than she is, I don't know everything. And I have to respect her, and I have to value her just as I want her to value me. And so the idea that you got all these generations in a way colliding, because again, it used to be that you only reported to someone who was older than you. Don't work like that now. Does not work like that. And feels abnormal. This is part of the change. Then this idea of change versus transformation. A lot of what happens in a change cycle is we got to unlearn some things. You ever had to unlearn something? Yeah. Anybody ever moved to a new house or a new apartment and you got to unlearn where stuff is? Get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and realize it's not to the left, it's to the right now. We have to unlearn some things that may have served us very well. Anybody get a new car? You still wish that had that other little thing that other car had, even though it had 290,000 miles on it and all that. We got to unlearn some things in order to ride this whitewater change. So change is situational. Transformation, that's what we're talking about. It's a new way of being. Girl Scouts has a new way of being. Nonprofits have a new way of being. Volunteers have a new way of being. Girls have a new way of being. TV's got a new way of being. And the whole idea is that we have got to understand that this is about unlearning. Unlearning as well as learning. Anybody feel like they're in chaos? Yeah, chaos. Okay, anyone here garden? Gardeners. Okay, I don't garden either. Y'all are like, lady, what do you do? I don't do crafts. I don't whitewater raft. I don't garden. So gardeners, what happens when you plant a seed?
You have to wait. You have to nurture.
Okay, hold on. She said you have to wait.
And
you have to nurture it. Okay, then what happens to the seed after you nurture it?
It starts to grow.
But what does it do before it starts to grow? It pops open. And if you that seed, that's chaos. So wait a minute, I'm a seed, I gotta pop open before I can grow? Yeah, seed, that's the way it works. I don't wanna pop open. Seed, let me tell you something, if you don't pop open, you're gonna die. No, it really is change or die. Seeds that don't pop open, they don't grow anything. They die. And that's the chaos that we're all feeling in our private lives, in your volunteer lives, in everything. But it is the primal state of new energy for new beginnings. And always think about the mission. When something comes along that you say, I don't know why they're doing this, how does it move the mission forward? Not whether I like it, whether they're changing it because Jane said so, or whether they're saying it because it's that from them people at Girl Scouts USA. Think about the girls and think about the mission. Drucker's question is, how does it move the mission forward? But you also have to give things time to work. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. Give it time to work. So every time something comes up, you say, how is this going to move the mission forward? How is this going to help transform the girls? How's it going to help? When you change your thoughts, you change the way you live. And we all got to do some changing. It's not the changes that do you in, it's the transition. Because transition is in here. It's in here. It's that personal stuff that you feel. You ever tried to sit in your community of faith or in your church, you ever tried to sit in somebody's chair? Obviously not, you're still alive. So what if somebody has to move? It's that personal feeling that this is my space. It's this personal feeling that I've sat here for 20 years or 30 years or whatever. That's the transition. That's the emotional part. You're trying to do both of these. You're trying to fix the past and you're trying to create the future. This is hard work. And that's what Girl Scouts is trying to do. And you're Girl Scouts. You have to understand that. There is no us and them. You all are a team. And we're going to talk later about you all being a team with the staff. And you all are doing both at the same time, constantly trying to fix systems that didn't work or that were antiquated for today's girls, catch up with the technology, catch up with the girls, catch up with the way the school system works, catch up with everything, and then create the future. This is not easy. You all are amazing volunteers. What do you want to do? You want something better of now, or you want something new? I think you want something new. This idea of you got to be familiar with what's going on. You got to figure out what's going on. And things that we really thought we loved, sometimes it really didn't work that well. That's that emotional piece that we hold on to. But this is where we want to be in transformation mode. That whatever you do today creates tomorrow. Whatever you do today, I'm hoping that something that you do here today, that you learn from each other, and in days like today, you learn more from each other than you do from any of the speakers, will create transformation in your life, because your transformation means the girls transform. And that's what you do. It's not based on what was. It's based on going on this journey. So this idea of being in action, in transformation mode, you got to be in transformation mode and be future focused. Future focused. Anybody ever been on a roller coaster? Okay, I'm going to tell you something else I never did. I never been on a roller coaster. I know, y'all like, she lives a very boring life. They used to have a roller coaster in Memphis at the Mid-South Fair called the Pippin. Elvis rode the Pippin. Elvis would rent out the Mid-South Fair and ride the Pippin all night. I never rode the Pippin. I was the one who sat down and held everybody's glasses and their purses and all of that, and held their sweaters and I watched them go round and round and round. And then when they came down, I would stand back as a few of them would throw up. And then I moved to Houston, and I had kids. I mean, it wasn't then I moved to Houston, but especially my oldest son, he loves these roller coasters. He would go to Astro World and just ride those loop-de-loop-de-loop things. The emotional roller coaster is what happens when you're in change. We're going up, we're going down, we're going sideways, and you don't know when it's going to end. And you just keep going. And then guess what? The smart people get back on. Because it's never going to end. And this may be the way some of you are feeling about the change. Some people aren't happy about the way girls have changed. You hear people, some of them my age, boomers love to rag on young girls. That's mostly what boomers do. I'm such an advocate for young people. You know, people are like, I can't believe these girls do that. I can't believe. I said, look, I got a picture of you in a skirt that if we had Facebook, you would have been in big trouble. You got to think back. Don't keep going on about these girls today, blah, 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 blah. What are you doing? What you're doing is helping the girls today and transforming them. But a lot of these changes, sometimes you feel shocked. What do you mean they're taking away that cookie? They can't do that. That was my favorite cookie. That was the best-selling cookie ever. Well, maybe for you. You know. I'm in shock. Dear Girl Scouts, how dare you take those cookies away? Forms changing. Dear Girl Scouts, I just learned how to use the old form. Why are we starting on a new form? This sound familiar to you? What do you mean the meeting is going to be on Tuesday? I'm used to going on Thursday. Oh no, we got a new principal? I so like the old principal. The new principal don't like Girl Scouts. What are we going to do? So you can be in shock and you can mourn all of this. Some people get scared and say, I'm out. I'm out. That fight or flight sets in. This is too big. It's changed. I'm out. That's not who you are, because you're trying to help to transform courageous and strong girls, and you have to be courageous and strong volunteers. So it's not an option for you. You don't run. That's not what you're teaching the girls when something changes. You don't run. You stay in there. You hang in there. And it's very disorienting. I look at that TV and I'm thinking, there's a whole world in that TV. I'm really disoriented. I wish I knew how to turn it on. And then I just walk past it, go in my bedroom and look at that little bitty TV. Because I'm extremely disoriented by this new television. Then there's this nostalgia. The TV that this one replaced, believe it or not, I bought for my father 30 years ago. It still had the big back on it. It weighed 100 pounds. The people who came to pick it up were young. They had never seen a television like that. I said, do you remove the old television? And the young man said, where is it? It's right there. He said, that's a television? He said, it's so big. I said, well, yeah, years ago, that was a television. So this orientation that we all feel, and this nostalgia. I miss that television because it was my dad's television, but it wasn't working anymore. So I have this nostalgia about it. I don't really like the new television yet. We haven't bonded. Maybe because I can't turn it on. Some people get raged, they get mad. Oh yeah, I stood in there the other day. Turn on, turn on, turn on, make TV. Then I start pushing buttons. Nothing happened. And I'm like, I don't even know why about this. This is so crazy, I'm done. Some people get very depressed when things change. I think about how it took my dad and I bought that TV and how he enjoyed it. And it was something that we were connected. You can feel a loss when something changes. Sometimes we just need to let go and detach. And that's when we make the decision to go up the side of the roller coaster. I'm searching for the new. I'm going to make an informed choice. I'm going to find new structures. I'm going to refine my purpose. I have hope. I have hope. You don't believe all the horrible things that the news media is saying about young girls, because you know better. You know better, so you have hope. And you have to test some of this stuff. And that's what Girl Scouts are doing. All nonprofits, they're testing stuff. Because we got to keep moving. And then you reattach. In about 3 to 5 years, you won't even remember what it was. I'm going to learn how to work that television. And you get excited, and you have realistic expectations. That roller coaster. William Bridges writes a lot about change and transition. And you may see yourself in some of these little people. You know, these little people, I love these little people. They say, can I cope? I don't know. Then some of you are going, finally, you're going to change something. Some of you are like, this is so cool. Others are like, I'm scared of this. You know, some people feel threatened. Other people feel guilty. I'm off. This isn't for me. People get depressed. We talked about that. Some people just get angry. You can't get angry because the world is still turning. Do you know that if the world stopped changing and turning, we'd all fall off? So we can't. We need to control that. And we can see ourselves in the future. But more so for you, I want you to see the girls in the future and that this can work, whatever it is, that you can make this work. I don't care how crazy the forms are, how hard the app is to put together, how many cookies come and go, how many times they change the uniforms, how many times they change the meetings, how many times they change the reporting structure. Now, wait a minute, I was talking to Agnes, but now I got to talk to Bertha. That's right, because they moved the staff around again. You can do this. You can do this. This ain't my first time at the rodeo. This idea of transitions is 3 stages. What's ending? Neutral zone, and what's beginning. This idea of what do we need to say goodbye to? And that's okay. And sometimes we just need to sing the Frozen song and let it go. Just sing the Frozen song and let it go. The idea of releasing things is very difficult, even when they're not working as well. But you got to know that you're planting seeds. And then sometimes you can lose a sense of identity. Maybe I don't fit in this anymore. But this is the cool part, is being in the middle, in that neutral zone. Now, there are those of you who are type A, and you know who you are. And you want to move from 0 to 50 in 2 seconds. I think we have the type A table down here at the front. Well, change is a process. It is not an event. And so the idea that this neutral zone where we hang in the middle and say, we're not quite sure how it's going. What do you mean at the council they don't know how it's going to work? They're supposed to be in charge. I think they're very incompetent. Don't they know how it's going to work? No, they don't know how it's going to work. They're working through it like everybody else is. They're working through it. This is the neutral zone. This is when you can be the most creative. And then you move into that new beginning. Then it's okay to hang there in that neutral zone and say, what could this be? What could this be for the girls? What could this be for me as a volunteer? What am I learning? I bet if we ask each one of you as volunteers, you could tell me something that you have learned as a volunteer in Girl Scouting. Something that you learned. You say, I thought we were here to transform the girls. If you haven't changed, then there's something wrong. See, you get a double-double. Everybody wins. The girls transform, you transform, the system transform, the world gets saved, and we all in a better place. See, I'm just crazy enough to believe that. Because that's what these new beginnings are about. But it's hard to let some stuff go. It's really hard. The pants that don't fit, the blouse that you're going to fit back in. What you going to do? Wear it for an armband, a wristband? I got some of those. Maybe I should just use them for hair bands or something, because I ain't never getting in them no more. So we got to let some of this stuff go of what was. You say, well, then I don't know who I am. Those girls are evolving. Many of the girls you work with wake up every day and they're not sure who they are. Because their bodies are in transition, their minds are in transition, their world is in transition, and guess what? So are ours. And this idea of helping them to these new beginnings. And it's okay to acknowledge that something is ending. It is okay. And we have to celebrate what was. You celebrate it and then you release it to the universe. We don't say, oh, that was the most horrible cookie in the world. Somebody goes, well, it really was a good cookie. I can't believe they're getting rid of that camp. That was the best camp in the world. And maybe it was. But we're talking about a mission here, and people got to change things. And we celebrate it, and then we move into the neutral zone, and then we go into this new beginnings. This is what it looks like. Every ending is a new beginning. When your birthday comes, you end one year and you start another year. There ain't nothing in the middle. Every ending is a new beginning for everybody. You got to manage it successfully, though. And you got to navigate this neutral zone, especially if you type A. Because that's a hard place to be, just kind of hanging in there. Somebody said in Peanuts, it's like when Linus's blanket is in the dryer. He don't know what to do with himself. He's sitting outside the dryer just watching it go round because he can't function without that blanket. And that's okay. We kind of need to forget what we think we are so that we can really become what we are. We think we are old systems. We think we are a lot of things. We can really become what we are. Isn't this what you would tell the girls? You would tell a girl that somebody has told her all her life, you can't do nothing. You don't come from a good family. You might not come from a good neighborhood. All this kind of stuff. You tell her that she has to forget what she thinks she is, what people are telling her that she is, so that she can really become what you see in her. Same thing with systems. Same thing with systems. So we have to forget some stuff. Anybody like penguins? This is such a cool book. I love penguins. So this penguin book, and you should get it. It's like that. It's kind of like Who Moved My Cheese. And it's called Our Iceberg is Melting. And there's this little penguin named Fred. And Fred is out walking one day, and he sees that there's a crack in the iceberg. Now, Fred is not a formal leader of the colony. And Fred has a briefcase. I don't know why. So Fred is out with his briefcase walking, and he sees a crack in the iceberg. See, the person who sees the need for the change is not always the person at the top of the org chart. Sometimes the girls see the need for the change. Sometimes you see the need for the change. Do you see what I'm talking about? Fred wasn't anybody, quote unquote, important in the colony. And he wanted to go because things became uncertain. The world is uncertain today. So Fred said, I got to do something. I got to talk to somebody. Well, here are the people he started talking to. There's Fred with his briefcase. See his briefcase? And then there's Alice. I think it's interesting. This book is by John Carter. And that John Carter chose a female penguin to respond to Fred. Being pro-female doesn't mean that you're anti-male. I have 2 sons, and I have a grandson, and if I'm divorced, so if anybody got a number, I'm open. So understand, and I'm sure that's what you're teaching the girls, that just because they're into their own courage and strength and girl power, it has nothing. That's why I'm glad to see men involved in this. And so Alice turns around and talks to Fred, because others are like, well, who is he? We don't know him. He's not on the leadership team. And Fred says the iceberg there's a crack in it. People are like, oh, no, there's not, because we're in charge. And if we knew, if there was a crack in the iceberg, we would know. But Alice, she works with Fred. And then you have no-no. Everybody's got some no-nos in their lives. Nothing is going to work. This is all going to be horrible. This is the end of Girl Scouting. It's terrible. We're all going to hell. All because they changed a cookie. I'm not on for it. I'm not up for it. And then you got Buddy. And Buddy is cool. He kind of one of those on the fence. I could go with this. I don't know. Then you have the professor. Sometimes we get into analysis paralysis. Oh my gosh, how is this going to work? I want to know step 1 through 99. And I want it in an email, and I want it in triplicate, and I want it annotated. People are like, I'm sorry, we are only at step 1 through 5. Well, aren't you in charge? I want to know the rest of them. That was the professor. He was over analytical about this. Well, what are we going to do? And he wanted to know how Fred knew that the iceberg was melting. He saw it. He wanted analytical data. And then we have Lewis, and he was another one that was kind of like, okay, we can do this. And then we had a scout who was willing to go out and try to find them another place to live. See, the scout was a change agent, willing to change. He said, I can break these rules, because see, they didn't have scouts. They stayed on the iceberg. And you know why they did it? They did it for the baby penguins. You see little Sally Ann over there? They said, we got to make sure that the babies have some place to live. Oh, they were snotty, because don't forget, they had tuxedos. And the seagulls flew over them all the time. They didn't talk to the seagulls. They were noisy, and they didn't have tuxedos. So why would we talk to them? And one of them, again, Fred, said, we could ask them where they live. We're not interested in talking with them. They don't know anything because they don't have any tuxedos. See, we got to let go of some of these stereotypes. We got to let go of some of this judgmental stuff. We got to be willing to talk to each other. And we got to be willing to respect each other. And we got to be willing to ask people things and step into places that we had never stepped before. That's what change is all about. So they talked to the seagulls, and the seagull says, well, we fly around. Yeah, we know that. And then sometimes we live over here, and sometimes we live over here. The penguin's like, wait a minute. You live in different places? Yeah. Sound like when they changed the council system in Girl Scouts? Again, this ain't my first time at the rodeo. Sound when they made the big groups, the big regions? Wait a minute. Why should we talk to people from Oklahoma? Wait a minute. How we going to all be in the same group? We're not even in the same state. That don't work. We Texas people. We don't have to talk to nobody else in the whole world. I lived in Texas for many years. I raised my kids in Texas. And so the idea is you got to overcome the complacency of the group. If the group is not changing, the group is dying. If the seed is not bursting open, it's not growing. And so you got to be Fred. You got to be Fred. You don't want, you want to be Alice. Lewis was the head of the council, but Lewis was scared to death. The first thing Lewis said is, what will they say? He was so worried about what the other penguins would say, because Lewis was trying to protect his job. You understand that? And so these are the characters. And there was chaos for them. Oh, no, we can't tell them. They're going to be mad. Ooh, we got to keep this a secret. Oh, my gosh. But Alice, I love Alice. Alice said, we have to hail everybody, and we must call a general assembly of the council. Don't you love Alice? Alice is like, we're going to get people together, and we're going to talk about this. When something is bugging you about a change, we need to get people together and talk about it. And I'm not talking about on email. Once something goes around twice on the thread, stop and pick up the phone. Running these threads that turn into nastygrams over and over again. I know no one in this room would ever send a nastygram. I can look at you and tell. But sometimes when we talk about things changing, it turns into a nastygram. And there are no secrets in the universe. There are no secrets in the universe. Everybody knows everything. So let's not even go there. And you have to get together. You got to get together and think about, what could this be? And what happens if we don't change? What happens if we don't change? Because this is not personal. This is for the girls. And if Fred is right, we don't have much time. Y'all know how quickly girls grow? They grow really fast. They transform really quickly, whether you want them to or not. We don't have a lot of time. The idea is you have to move and things have to evolve and things have to change and this culture has to move forward, just like girls are moving forward. It's so important. It's okay that some things don't work out. You shouldn't be sitting around going, I knew that wasn't going to work. Yeah, I could have told them it wasn't going to work. Anybody in here never failed at anything? What do you tell the girls when something doesn't go right? What do you tell them? Try again. There is no failure. There's only trying. Now I'm talking like Yoda. This idea of working across teams and being flexible. I'm not even going to talk about being flexible now. I'm going to talk about being nimble. You got to be nimble now. You got to go with the flow, ride the water, bust the seed, all these metaphors that I've been talking about. And you have to believe that success will be achieved. And success is success for the girls. It's not necessarily for you. But I believe that the girls' success and your success are intertwined. And they're not mutually exclusive. This idea of the culture, attention to detail, always focused on the people, always having a team, we're going to talk about that, and feeling some stability and knowing that it's going to be okay. And what's the big picture? Stay focused on the big picture, not in the weeds. Somebody in your group has got to be the weed whacker. So when you in a meeting, that's right, let me see, do that. Come on, stand up and do it. No, stand up. Let me see you whack a weed. There you go. Look at her. So when you're in a meeting and everybody starts delving down into the weeds, do what she did. Go, we're going to whack this weed. We need to raise this conversation back up. How does what we're doing impact the girls? How does it change our volunteer engagement? Now, I don't like that form. I wish they had printed these papers out today because I don't like that app. You know, what's the change? You're talking to girls about the environment and trying to change the world. So we ain't killing trees no more. You can't have it both ways. I can't have it both ways. That's why we need to keep these conversations up. And organizations are nothing but people. There is no Girl Scouts without you. It's not the building or the buildings. It's the people. It's the volunteers. It's the staff. It's the partners. Organizations are nothing but people. And the organization will change when you change. Because it's all about the culture. You know, everybody's house got a different culture. I visit my oldest son, the one with the 4 remotes, and his wife in Austin. When I go, they take their shoes off. I don't know why. We never took our shoes off. In fact, my mom was one of them, don't walk around in here barefoot, you know. So we never took our shoes off. But that's their home. So when I go to their home, I take my shoes off. Also, she's the one who's going to take care of me when I'm old. So I'm going to do whatever she says. I love her. Yes, it's a change. I got my little sock feet that I take when I go there, and I pad around in them. And I don't go, you know, I never took my shoes off in my house. He wasn't raised like that. I don't know why we're doing that. Sing the Frozen song and let it go. And honor the culture. Whether it's something that you're accustomed to or even something that you agree with. I think they're all going to have pneumonia myself when they walk around like that in the wintertime. But that's on them. You have to honor the culture. And you have to be okay with the change and with the transformation. Is your iceberg melting? Don't let it melt. We got plenty of cracks. Nonprofits today are radically different. I started in nonprofits in Houston over 30 years ago. I came out of the corporate sector. I moved to Houston, and, you know, it was a whole different world. They are nothing like they were 30 years ago, and I'm so glad. They're all evolving. I work with the Audubon Society. They got people who, the people who only want to talk about birds, and they got people who only want to talk about conservation, and they got people who want to talk about environmental justice. I work with junior leagues. Junior leagues you couldn't get in if you weren't 39 and if you didn't know somebody. Now, any woman in the world can get in a junior league. I work with bar associations, lawyers, changing the way they do things. The whole world is changing, and guess what? You on the transformation team. What a place to be as we evolve. And right now, the whole conversation around women and girls, this is our time. This is our time. So that's why we can't stay in the weeds and have these little petty conversations. This idea, what you're trying to do, you got to do this. You got to preserve order amid change and preserve change amid order. Again, when you move, you still got to know where the pots are and the sheets are. Chaos. You got boxes everywhere, but you got to be able to find the food and you got to be able to find the bedding. Or you just lay on the floor. Now, some of you are conservers. You like things the way they are. We need you because you keep making us say, okay, what was good about what we were doing? Pragmatists, you in the middle. You can go either way. Originators, you say, let's change it. We need to value all three. Conservatives keep originators from jumping off the cliff. Because originators just jump off the cliff. Originators say, okay, we're going to California. And the conservative says, why? And the originator says, because it's there. And the pragmatist says, how we going to get there? And the originator says, I don't know, but we just going. And then the pragmatist says, we don't have any money. And the conservative says, why we need this still something? Why we need to go to California? We need money. We need a way to get there. You got to value all three types. Your team should really have all three types. This idea of it's a creative process. And if you're in a group of originators, they definitely need you conservers to say, here's what we keep, here's what we release. If you're in a group of conservers, it's fine. Conservers, you got to do letting some go. And pragmatists, you got to make a decision. And you help fill out all the little details. This passion meter, the passion meter, where are you in the change? Sometimes you're a sponsor. Sometimes you're a promoter. Sometimes you're a positive fence sitter. That's the pragmatist. Sometimes you're a cautious fence sitter. Sometimes you're a positive skeptic. Yeah, but. I remember I had a boyfriend once. My grandma was like, yeah, but. You know what? She was right. And then we have negative skeptics. There's nothing wrong with negative skeptics because negative skeptics bring up things. It's about how you bring it up. How do you bring it up? Do you bring it up defensively? You do bring it up angrily? Or you bring it up in a way that says, here's what we learned from this. And in different change things, guess what? You're going to be on different places on that meter. And at different times. I was all for buying that TV when I got it. I was a sponsor. And now I'm a positive skeptic. No, really, I have spent money on something that maybe I don't need it. Maybe I'm not going to use it. Maybe I don't like it, but I got to hang with it. So this idea of change is a process, not an event. You got to figure out what's changing. You got to decide what's over. You got to identify the continuities, and you got to look at process and experiment a little bit every day. I am going to go home and get that book out. And I'm going to start working on that book and trying to understand how that TV works. And these new systems that you are encountering, this whole new world, you can't be in denial. Resistance is futile. You just use all your energy. I'm so tired. What have you accomplished? Nothing. I'm just fighting all the old stuff. I've accomplished nothing. I think you got to be committed. We all have to be committed. And we have to explore. She talked about life changes. All of our lives have changed. In 1998, my life fell apart. Everything I knew, everything I thought fell apart. I didn't know what was on the other side. I thought my life was over. A lot of things happened to me in 1998, and I couldn't see the end of the tunnel. A friend of mine said to me, you can't see what's for you until you let go what's already done. There's something on the other side of through. And sometimes in your life and in your volunteer work, you just got to go through it in order to make the positive change. So pay attention, focus, acknowledge that things are happening, don't deny it, don't jump at it, and know that yesterday's strategies are not effective for the future. Yesterday's strategies don't work for our future women leaders, for our future world. You got to be ready. I've got to be ready. It's a new day. It's a brand new day. And I may not understand it, but I have to live in it. and I have to understand how to navigate it. And I got to make it through this day, and so do you. And you got to help those girls to make it through it. Oh, and it's not going to look like it looked yesterday. In fact, it may not even look like it looked this morning tonight. The idea is you get new strength and new thoughts. You're all change agents. You're all on the transformation team. I'm so glad that you are volunteers. I'm so proud to be here with you today. And I came here as a learner. I'll be sitting in on some of the sessions because that's how I change and grow. Because I'm a work in progress. And I hope that each of you are a work in progress. I know Girl Scouts is a work in progress. I know those girls on the other side of that wall are a work in progress. Change, grow, lead, be courageous, and stay in touch. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you.